We have a message today out of Luke chapter 19, starting in verse 41. And it's called, This Your Day. That's Luke chapter 19, starting in verse 41. First is Palm Sunday. We have a Palm Sunday message. And first thing people think of on Palm Sunday is how Jesus got on the donkey and he rode down into Jerusalem, and they spread clothes and palm leaves in front of him. And there's lots of messages about that, but I want to touch on a different aspect. It's right after that part. Starting verse 1. And when he, Jesus, was come near, he beheld the city, and he wept over it. It's interesting because this is his great triumphal entrance into the city, followed by his betrayal in the garden. So he sees the city, and he says this: if you had known, even you, the city, at least in this thy day, today, right now, in this your time, the things which belong unto your peace. This is interesting. It's not just about God having peace for us, but it's like the things that come with that peace. He said it's a package deal. It's not just peace. I've got a bunch of things for you. But now they're hid from your eyes. So in the midst of all this, he said, you know what? It's like I had peace for you. I had so much more than that for you. But now it's hidden. Now you say, why is he hiding it? Actually, it isn't hidden. By turning their back on God, it became hidden. More on that a little bit later. But now are they hid from thine eyes. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, compass thee around, and keep thee in on every side. So it's called a siege. You're completely surrounded, you're hemmed in, you can't go out, nothing can come in. And they shall lay thee even with the ground. So it gets worse. It's not just a siege. He says, they'll lay thee even with the ground. He said they're going to level the whole city. And thy children within thee. And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knowest not the time of thy visitation. Now this is really important, and most people don't really hear much from pastors about a time of visitation. But we all have, not a time, but we have times of visitation. They say, well, things are different now. They are and they aren't. God works by principles, and there are times in our life when there's a time of visitation, when God comes into our life to reveal himself. But when we reject God in the process of doing that, two things happen. First of all, we miss his blessing, because he's got a blessing for us. That's why he's come. He's come to bring a blessing. But when we reject the blessing, we bring a curse on ourselves. And that's exactly what he's saying here. They shall leave thee even with the ground, etc., etc., because you knew not the time of your visitation. So you can look back and say, well, it was a shame they missed the boat. But that scripture is just as relevant today for us as believers, as Christians, as it was back then. Because he was talking to the believers of the time. There was no such thing at that time as Christians. We are, in a sense, we call ourselves Christians, but really, literally, when you read the Bible, we are Messianic Jews. Messianic in the sense that all the Jews believe in the Messiah. They still do today. They just don't recognize Jesus as the Messiah. They don't recognize that Jesus has come and gone. They don't even recognize the fact that the covenant they had with God was broken. It was an old covenant. It says in Isaiah he was going to establish a new covenant. They don't recognize that. But the fact is, under that old covenant, they had blood offerings to offer every day. Animals, they had to kill a lamb every morning and a lamb every evening in the temple. For their sins, they had to kill animals. There's a whole bunch of blood offerings that they had, but they can't do them anymore. Now, under the covenant, the old covenant, they had to do the blood offerings. But God made sure that they lost the Ark of the Covenant, which was the center of their relationship with God, a visible manifestation. And they also lost the temple where the offerings had to be made. Now, if that was just a mistake or an oversight, God would establish the temple again, and he would certainly make sure that they found the covenant, Ark of the Covenant. But those things haven't happened. So clearly what has happened is they've missed the boat. And we see the results now. There's just a lot of problems. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. So let's come back. So how does it relate to us? If you had known in this, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong to your peace, now they're hid from your eyes. So how does that pertain to us? It's interesting. There are specific times of visitation, and those are the times when we have problems. Because that's exactly the time that Jesus shows up. And he's saying, look at me. Pay attention to me. I've got peace for you, and I've got a package for you, not just peace. I've got blessings for you as well. Are you prepared to turn to me and ask me what to do? Are you prepared to turn to me and do what I tell you to do, to follow it through so that the problems, not only the problems disappear, they won't come back, but there's going to be a blessing on you for listening, for getting with the program. Now, whenever that happens, we always have two choices, of course. God doesn't force us to do anything. It's yes or no. It's like, yes, I'm going to hear God, and he takes us through, and we feel blessed for having been taken through, and we're at a higher level afterwards. Well, I always at a higher level spiritually, and that always manifests in a higher level in the natural as well. Sometimes it's finance, sometimes it's health, sometimes it's peace and joy. It doesn't really matter what it is. We always come up with more. But when we don't listen, that's when the problems happen, and that's the second part of this. The first thing that happens is you get hemmed in. You feel like your hands are tied. You can't do anything. It's like, well, I want to do this, I can't do this. I want to do that, I can't do that. And it's like, you're just hemmed in, you can't do anything. Well, even then, it's still not too late to turn to God. Because even then, Jesus is prepared to help you through the problem, through the situation. But if you don't, then the second thing happens. You get devastated. You lose everything you have. You lose it all spiritually first, and then you lose it all in the natural. Now, in the process of being hemmed in, God allows that. So it's like, yeah, you might not notice it when a few problem here, a problem there. And it's like, well, yeah, but I can manage it. I can manage it. There's still no turning to God. Until it gets to a point is, well, I can't do anything. My hands are tied. And then that's the sign. It's like, get with the program. But do you want to get with the program? Do you want to give up the old ways? There's an old saying, you don't give up the devil you know for the devil you don't know. So people stick with bad situations because they think, well, it might not be as good on the other side. But on the other side, you don't know that it's not going to be better either. Doing nothing is usually the worst option that you've got. And yet people do it all the time. It's the deer in the headlights thing. When you're on the highway and the deer sees you, he sees the headlights, he freezes. It's a natural response from that. So unless you get out of the way, the deer doesn't get out of the way, there's going to be a collision. And so we get this deer in the headlights thing. It's like, well, it's a hard time, but I'll just hunker down. I don't have to change. I don't have to do anything because we're scared. And fear is your enemy. And that's one of the things that God always attacks when we come under attack. Because our fear is an idol. And it's an idol because we don't trust God with it. It's bigger than God in our life. Because if God was bigger than that, then you wouldn't have any fear. So fear is always an idol, and fear is always your enemy. Bible tells us, Lord is the light of my life. Of who then shall I be afraid? So we come, like I said, it's like, so we understand that it's in difficult times. And even back then there was difficult times because the Romans were an invading force. They were under the taxes of the Romans. They were under the laws of the Romans. And in fact, any Roman soldier could come by and beat you up, do whatever he wanted, and there was just no repercussions. We always know that Jesus is there in a time of trouble. Why? Because he's allowing that into our life so that we get with the program. Every problem that comes into our life, remember, all things work together for good for those that love God and are called. So then why does bad happen to me? Because he wants to address something in my life, and the good's not doing it. So he's going to allow difficult things into our life, so we get with the program. So we hear his voice, so we make the changes we need to change. So we don't approach it as, you may not like it, but it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. the first reaction is always it's a bad thing. Why? Because I lost my peace, I lost my joy, I lost my comfort, and so what? Growth is difficult. Growth takes effort. Growth takes pressing in. And so we have to recognize when the problem comes, pay attention. This is God speaking to you. There's something in your life that you need to address. You can't hear his voice, it's no problem. Take some time. Blank out your mind. Pray and ask God for guidance and direction. Speak to you. He'll speak to you. He always speaks to you. I always say, women like to talk, but God likes to talk more than women do. So, no one can say, he's not talking to me. You may not be listening to him, but he's talking. Just got to tune in. He's ready to talk to you 24/7. In fact, we get dreams because he wants to talk to us. And if he can't catch our attention while we're awake, he'll catch us when we're asleep. But he's always going to talk to us. So we have nothing to fear, and we know that when difficult times come, God is speaking to us. But I've been good. That's got nothing to do with it. You read the book of Job. He was good. He was doing everything he was supposed to do, and pow, he not only lost all his stuff, he got sick too. But when he finally came to a realization of his own unrighteousness and the righteousness of God, and God was there to help him, the most important sentence in the whole of that book is right in the last chapter. He said, before I heard about God, but now I know God. And then because he knew God and he wasn't fearful anymore, God gave him twice as much as he had before. Sounds like a good deal. Except for the fact you got to go through hard times to get there. The meal is nice, but you got to pay for the bill. And it's always pay first, fly later with God. You go through the trouble and then he takes care of it. Then he brings you up to another level. I've never met anybody who said it wasn't worth it as a Christian. But he never tells us everything we're going to go through because we won't say that beforehand. That's just the way it is as Christians. So this is your day. Amen. You got a problem? It's no problem. This is your day to get an answer, to grow, to get to a better place. And that's my message today.